Welcome back, guys. We received a bombshell update in the ever-unfolding story behind the grisly murder of Sean Famous Figueroa, courtesy of Freddie's crew. In this video, we'll analyze the new information, cross-reference it to what we've been previously shown, and try to nail down the real culprit behind what's transformed into what I'm coining the famous conspiracy. Before we begin, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and bell notification to immediately receive these videos. Also, big thank you to all of my Patreon family. If you'd like to be the next one, hit the link pinned to the comments below. And lastly, a spoiler alert is now in effect for all things power. Here we go. In episode 6, our main players mourn the loss of their friend, brother, and extended family, Famous, who we learned at the conclusion of 405 had been rotting under a filthy mattress for the past 3 months. Up to this point, his disappearance was deduced to a street crime, with the prime suspects being Rock, Marvin, Ronnie, Freddie's crew, and Howard. However, the information fearfully splattered all over the playground is as mind-boggling as it is plausible. Drowning in the abyss of sadness, accompanied by the spirit of revenge, Kanan and Jukebox make a surprise visit to Freddie's crew, who are in the middle of a pickup game before being forced to their knees at the end of Juke's gun. Side note, the descent of Jukebox is on full display in this scene, as she joyfully presses the crew for answers while threatening their lives simultaneously, leaving no doubt that at least one of them won't see the sun again. The exchange is disrupted, however, when one of the crew members state the following under the intense interrogation on Fame's death. "I heard it was the police that dropped Fame. Just some shit I heard around the way, man. Niggas saying Fame knew about some cops being dirty, and they got scared of him talking, so they snatched him up and put him down." This sounds insane on the surface, as Jukebox herself was even taken aback by the absurd suggestion. Why would the police kill someone they were interrogating? What did they learn from him that they feared getting out to the public and besmirching the department's reputation indefinitely? And most importantly, who did it? Let's walk down the NYPD angle slowly and dissect the breadcrumbs. The mention of NYPD corruption dates back to Raising Kanan episode 301, where a news broadcast relayed, quote, "The fallout from corrupt NYPD detective Ralph Sacristano's recent conviction continues, as more wrongfully imprisoned men are released this week. As you may remember, Detective Sacristano was found guilty of manufacturing evidence against at least 10 men. One of these men was Ronnie Mathis, Nick's older brother, who was freed as a result of the overwhelming corruption sweeping the police department. Corruption has been a point of order and contention under the current police captain Baptiste, who made multiple efforts to place the NYPD in a favorable light publicly. Between Howard's shooting, the Sacristano scandal, the Burke investigation/self-deletion, and a plethora of other issues, the NYPD was up to its neck in salacious behavior. Rock even caught the back end of NYPD corruption in the midst of trying to finally go legitimate, which ruptured the effort altogether once she realized it firsthand, leading the Queenpin back into the only game she'd ever known. But the event that reignited interest in the corrupt nature of the police department was the cold-blooded murder of Detective Malcolm Howard, who was ironically discovered next to a criminal who'd been freed due to police corruption, Ronnie Mathis. At the beginning of this season, Captain Baptiste calls in Detective Garcia in the wake of Howard's demise and an embarrassing press conference that all but eradicated public trust with the NYPD. Howard's definitive legacy as yet another dirty cop operating inside the department had been cemented by the, quote, preponderance of evidence found at his murder site, and the beleaguered police captain wasn't ready to lie down without a true resolution to the death of yet another officer under his provision and jurisdiction. To quote the captain exactly, "For you and me," referring to Garcia, "there's no world where the murder of a cop, even a dirty one, goes unanswered." He continues, "So this one's a passion project for you and me. You're gonna be a one-man band, but it needs to be on the QT, not a goddamn whisper." Finally, he concludes with the most damaging mandate, stating, quote, "Press up on your informants, lean on your locals, squeeze hard on anyone you can. Whoever put Howard down is still out there. Somebody's got to pay Garcia, and this bill is way past due." As we can see, Captain Baptiste put a battery in the back of the last police officer he could trust, one who was close enough to the case and Howard to take on the crusade against any potential hurdles to the real answers behind his sudden removal. In the very next sequence, we get the first mention of Famous's MIA status this season, courtesy of Lou and Marvin. Marv conveys to his baby brother that Famous is getting radio love, but also revealing that, quote, the police took a warrant out on him and the word is that he's been talking. then got scared and said too much, and he got to running. Garcia confirms Famous's missing timeline in his intentional brush with Kanan a few scenes later, stating that he's been missing for 2 months by the time of this altercation. The insinuation from Kay's disposition is that this occurrence is routine and not merely happenstance. However, upon a closer examination, it's quite the methodical maneuver given where this theory is headed. Garcia claims to still be searching for Famous, which is backed up by the aforementioned account by Marvin preceding this section. But what if by this point, Garcia already knows where Famous is at, and is only hassling Kanan here to keep him and the Thomas family believing that he's still out there, thus hiding his hand completely? Peep game. Through episode 6, we don't see Garcia confront Kanan like this again, which is strange considering the aforementioned mandate from Baptiste. Now, if the captain gave him the green light to exercise whatever means necessary to gain info on Howard, how come it's suddenly gone red? The rogue detective did mention looking for Famous, but that was the underlay in hindsight. The overplay was gaining useful intel on what really happened to Howard, and more importantly, who was the true trigger man behind it. Kanan proved a dead end to his efforts, but he still had Famous, allegedly. Thus, I think that Garcia received Baptiste's words in earnest and in truth, already feeling similarly about the violence against the NYPD. Then, he began pressing up on his informants, leaning on his locals, and squeezing hard on anyone he could, until he squeezed too hard on Sean Famous Figueroa, and killed him as a result. Think about it. Fame was in a no-win situation from the start. He was taken into police custody, dared to rights on a murder beef, and really had no recourse outside of police protection. Be that as it may, he consistently denied their overtures at snitching and capitulation. Suddenly, Detective Howard is murdered, and the department is further shamed for being involved in yet another scandal, urging Captain Baptiste to issue Order 66 on anyone with information to combat the ongoing narrative. The first mandate given by Baptiste was to, quote, press up on your informants, and though not offering incriminating information willingly, Fame's proximity to the police, Kanan, and Howard led to Garcia taking things overboard on him, and tragically extinguishing his life in the process. We got a glimpse of how ill-tempered and tyrannical Detective Garcia could be. He was violent with Kanan in his search for intel, while simultaneously making him believe that Fame could be on the run, and it was a plausible enough lie to tell. After all, Garcia is well aware of the crime-ridden neighborhood he serves and the street politics that exist therein. By spreading that Famous was on the run, no one would think to look for a corpse, buying him enough time to separate the NYPD from the insidious deed. But as we well know, the streets are always talking, and we caught wind of those percolations via Freddie's crew. Additionally, look how callous Garcia has been when encountering Famous's mother. Upon her search for him, Garcia turns the burden of proof on Famous, the victim. He characterizes Fame as a suspect and not a victim, although by this point, he's been MIA for over 3 months. Also, notice how Mama Fame begins the conversation. She basically accuses Garcia of giving her the runaround with her son's life and whereabouts, stalling her upon each and every search attempt for him. Why would a police officer who's lost a potential murder suspect turned witness behave in such a way? After painting Famous as a fugitive, he then deflects blame for his disappearance onto Kanan, which alleviates him and the police further from the potential conspiracy. Worse yet, Garcia thoroughly disrespected Mama Fame in her own home, challenging her love for her son as a tactic to gain information on any other known friends and associates that he could likely pin the murder on. Then, after rightfully being told to get the fuck out of her home, Garcia goes for broke and claims that Famous was working with the NYPD to help solve the murder of a cop, which would be Howard in this case. He attempts to tie Fame's murder to his assistance in that investigation, but there's one thing we must keep in mind. This is all a misdirect. Famous wasn't a snitch, and he damn sure wouldn't be assisting the police in solving the murder of one of their own. This filthy claim by Garcia all ties back to his original orders executed by Captain Baptiste. His job is to solve Howard's true murder by any means, even if it meant the clandestine execution of a murder suspect to do it. Someone that no one would miss and that deserved death anyway, at least in his eyes. And in the aftermath of that execution, Garcia still needed to gain leads in order to complete the mission, which explains why he's fishing for more friends and associates of Famous who can possibly be flipped. Many have concluded that it was Howard who did away with Famous. However, this avenue would ultimately be anticlimactic, as whomever killed Famous should be someone that's alive to receive retribution for the heinous act. Remember, Famous wasn't just murdered, but was brutally tortured prior to being eliminated, something that was ironically pointed out by Garcia. This grisly addition was meant to drive home a potential revenge plot against the police department with the history of being dirty, even if it's by exposure over destruction. Garcia's retribution may result in just that. Or maybe Mama Fame crashes out on him in the same spirit as the old man in the finale of New Jack City, taking matters into her own hands to avenge her son despite a doomed outcome. But what are your thoughts on all of this? Do you believe Garcia conspired to kill Famous and further the ploy to crack the Howard murder? Be sure to drop me your opinions in the comments below. As always, I thank you for watching today's video. If you liked today's video, go ahead and drop $1 on that Cash App for us, hit the like button, share it with your friends who are Power fans, and subscribe for more content such as this. This is Rudy P. Magic of Rudy P. Magic Beats, and have a blessed one until the next one. Peace, y'all.